Good evening, everyone. Mayor Fournier could not be here tonight because of a family obligation, so I'm filling in for him. This is my first time chairing the City Commission meeting, so I know that all of you will give me some grace and space, especially my colleagues, as we navigate this agenda tonight. So with that, I'm going to call Royal Oak City Commission meeting on Monday, May 18th, 2026 at 7:34 to order. Okay. So we will begin with an invocation by Commissioner Woody Gantina, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening. As my daughter returns home from her freshman year at Michigan State University, I'm reminded that for many students and families, the trauma and violence that took place on campus just a few short years ago still lingers. At the same time, my younger son tonight was nervously preparing for driver's training and worried about highway driving and the weather we had earlier. Both of these things serve as reminders of how quickly our kids grow into independence and how much they still rely on adults to protect them. Whether we're talking about safe driving, mental health, or responsible gun ownership, safety starts with awareness and prevention. I hope our community continues to promote gun safety education and secure firearm storage so that every child, student, and family has the chance to feel safe at school, at home, and in our neighborhoods. I'm grateful to live in a community that cares deeply about one another, and I believe small, thoughtful actions can make a real difference. By working together with compassion, responsibility, and common sense, we can help build a safer and stronger future for all of our kids.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, so we have a proclamation declaring the first Friday in June as Gun Violence Awareness Day in Royal Oak. So I will go down there and read it. We're presenting this proclamation to Diana Darland with Royal Oaks Moms Demand Action. Okay, and I'm just going to read it. Okay. Proclamation declaring the first Friday in June National Gun Violence Awareness and Wear Orange Day in Royal Oak. Whereas in 2025, gun deaths from murders, accidental shootings, and homicides decreased for the fourth consecutive year, falling from nearly 17,000 in 2024 to 14,651 in 2025. And whereas, while this data is encouraging and provides greater clarity on gun violence trends to support informed prevention efforts, significant challenges remain and must be acknowledged. And whereas the nonprofit Gun Violence Archive, which compiles this data, reports that firearm suicides have continued to increase with an average of 2,338 Americans per month from January through July taking their own lives. And if this rate continues, more than 28,000 Americans could die from firearm suicides in a single year, the highest number on record. And whereas these figures demonstrate the efforts to increase awareness to gun violence are having an impact. However, firearms become the leading cause of death for Americans under 18 in 2020 and in 2025. Of the 4,458 young people shot, 1,256 died from their injuries, representing lives forever lost to their families and friends. And whereas cities across the nation, including Royal Oak, are working to end senseless violence through evidence-based solutions, and whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is among a mayor's highest responsibilities, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping firearms out of the hands of individuals with dangerous histories, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers in partnership with local violence intervention organizations and community resources understand their communities are familiar with local criminal activity and are best positioned to implement effective strategies to keep residents safe. And whereas in January 2013, Hadia Peddleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15, and on June 5th, 2026, in recognition of what would have been her 29th birthday, people across the United States will observe National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Peddleton and all the victims of gun violence, as well as their families and loved ones. And whereas this movement was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, a color chosen because hunters wear orange to make themselves visible and protect one another, symbolizing the value of human life. And whereas anyone can participate in this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 5th, 2026, the first Friday in June, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 5th, 2026, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reducing gun violence, continuing the downward trend in the deaths and injuries, doing all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of those who should not have access to them, and encouraging responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now therefore be it resolved that Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier, together with the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, do hereby declare Friday, June 5th, 2026, a National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Royal Oak in honor and remembrance of all victims and survivors of gun violence. We encourage all residents to raise awareness by wearing orange and to demonstrate their support for Royal Oak and surrounding communities in efforts to prevent the tragic impacts of gun violence, to honor and value human life, and to reaffirm that, as a nation, we must continue working to address this critical public health issue.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diana Darland, and I am a member of the South Oakland County chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America is a nonpartisan, grassroots organization made up of volunteers like myself working hard to end gun violence in America. We wish to thank the Royal Oak Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and the City Commission for making the National Gun Violence Awareness Proclamation for June the 5th this year, as you have many years in a row. What began as a memorial tribute to a young girl who was from Chicago who was shot on her street corner just 1 week after she performed in President Obama's second inaugurational parade. It has become a national weekend designated to honor all victims of gun violence, to support survivors, which includes family members, friends, and teachers of people who are shot and killed, and to raise awareness to the tragic and wide-ranging effects of gun violence, and also the strategies and evidence-based solutions we can and must use to curtail this public health crisis. Several startling facts bear repeating. Every day in America, 300 people are killed by firearms. And on average, 200 are shot and wounded. Approximately 23 children and teens are shot every day. And tragically, gun violence has become the leading cause of death for children, teens, and college-aged youth in our country. It's estimated that 4.6 million children in the United States live in households where there is a gun loaded and unlocked. In an attempt to legally prevent this, in Michigan, we have gun violence prevention laws on the books, including the Secure Storage Child Access Prevention Law. This law requires Michigan gun owners to store their firearms locked, unloaded, and separate from ammunition. Failure to do so in a gun is obtained and a crime is committed, the owner can be held legally responsible in Michigan. That's thanks to the lobbying of groups like mine and overwhelming public support. In addition to continued lobbying to prevent gun violence prevention laws, our Moms Demand Action group promotes secure storage through Be Smart for Kids presentations. Be Smart is a simple framework and easy to remember acronym. The S stands for Secure All Firearms Always at all times in your homes and your vehicles. M stands for Model Appropriate Behavior around handguns and firearms. A is for Ask about the presence of guns in others' homes. So for parents and caregivers of children, think about it this way. If your child was going over to a friend's house to play and there was a pool or perhaps a dog or something that would be frightening or dangerous to your child, you would ask that person about it. And the same thing should be done these days with respect to firearms. If you know they have firearms, you should inquire whether or not they're securely stored, as they're legally bound to be. R stands for Recognize the Risk of Suicide, the role of guns in suicide. I want to point out that access to a gun increases the risk of death threefold. T stands for Tell Others to Be Smart. We make Be Smart presentations to school and community groups and at tabling events where we also hand out free gun locks. Please, I encourage you to reach out and let a Moms Demand Action member know if you want any presentations made or if there's anything we can do to help you spread gun safety awareness in Royal Oak going forward. Thank you again for your commitment to gun violence awareness and prevention. And don't forget to wear orange June 5th through June 7th. Thank you. Maybe we could stand in front of them.
Sure.
There, does that make sense? And can we get back? Or do they want to be down? No, perfect. Sure. Oh.
I did.
You acknowledge, you just chose your door.
All right. Okay. So now we're on to approval of the agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda tonight? Okay. Is there any motions? Move to approve by Commissioner Gantina. Second by Commissioner Bastian.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Thank you. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Great. Now on to consent agenda. Anyone wish to pull anything?
Public.
Oh, sorry. I am so sorry. We're just going to skip right over public comment. We can't do that. Okay, so there are some rules. Let me get that out there. This city commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the city commission on any city-related issue, both on the agenda and not. I ask that comments be directed to the city commission and not individual commissioners. The city has made it easy for you to request a follow-up on an issue or leave a public comment by simply scanning the QR code you see displayed. And they're right over there by the chief. Please make sure to double check your information for accuracy, as staff may utilize it for post-meeting responses. In addition to public comment, there will be a public hearing this evening regarding the request to approve a brownfield plan for the development at 1225 North Main Street. If you wish to speak tonight at public comment or at the public hearing, please wait until recognized by me, Mayor Pro Tem Herzog, then come to the podium. For the record, you will state your name and address. Please be mindful that the City Commission wants to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less per speaker, not per topic. The exception to this is the public hearing, where you may speak once the public hearing has been opened. There is a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your allotted time. Please note that the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address questions when the agenda topic is discussed or refer to the proper city department for non-scheduled matters. Staff are also taking notes and will look into matters as needed. Okay. With that, who would like to start us off tonight? You in the back, gray shirt.
I'm back. I was here last month, and I'm back with requesting some information from you folks if possible. And just as a summary, this is going to be short and brief. The chief over here, he's got his hands full with Woodward Avenue, okay? And the noise that's happening out there. Is there any allotment of money or funds to allow for more overtime somewhere? I know it all costs money, okay, and nobody wants to pay any higher millages, I'm sure, okay? But there's got to be a way to find some dollars that can help your chief get this under control, okay? I spent a couple of nights out on Woodward Avenue, and I live right off of Woodward's, 7 houses. Just north of the cemetery. And I'm sure, excuse me, I live at 3156 Parker Drive. So Amanda, you're not the only one that babbles at that time, okay? So please bear with me. The south side of Woodward, there's the light at Webster, you got your light at 12 Mile, and you got your light at 13 Mile. I actually watch guys staging their cars for a race, okay? I mean, literally taking off from 13 Mile Road, slowing down, let everybody get out of the way, stop at the light, and again, off they go, okay? You know, the crotch rocket syndrome, rice burners, whatever you want to call them, with these high-pitched mufflers, okay? These guys all, I have a Harley, okay, so I'm a little biased, but they all have communication devices between them. They're laughing at us. They're literally laughing, because I can pick up their communication. Hey, there's an officer coming. Well, I won't say, they don't say officer. There's an officer coming northbound. Chill. Okay? So we got to find a way to defeat this, because it's only going to get worse. I'd like to have, you know, what I don't understand, I guess, is how are they not writing tickets for, I don't care about the noise right now, but the craziness of the speed is just getting totally out of hand. Everybody drives 50 on Woodward. These guys are driving outrageous numbers. So if we need funds, maybe this is the way we can generate some. Get a couple officers, unmarked cars, okay, put them out there on a Friday, Saturday. Sunday's not bad, usually. And my time's up. So I'll relay on to you to hopefully give us some type of answer soon.
Thank you. We didn't get your name. Do you mind sharing your name? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Tom Togweiler, 1018 Longfellow. I am back again representing the Royal Oak Historical Society. We are an organization that is very proud to announce our sponsorship of the unveiling of the Judge Jamie Wittenberg Memorial Wall over at the courthouse on Wednesday, May 27th. The event will start right in this commission chambers at 5 p.m. After the ceremony here, people will be escorted over to the courthouse for the unveiling of the memorial wall. There will be beverages, lemonade, waters, and cookies available. We want to invite everybody to come. We are also having our event live streamed on WROK for those that cannot make it, but I hope to see you there. In addition to the actual event, we are announcing the start of the Judge Jamie Wittenberg, Judge Keith Leonhout's Memorial Scholarship Fund, with 2 scholarships being given annually to teens in Royal Oak or Berkeley that have shown a propensity and a willingness to serve in public service. So you can make your donations available day of, or go to RoyalOakHistoricalSociety.com and make a donation there also. I'd also like to invite everybody to our organization's annual pancake breakfast on Monday, Memorial Day, May 25th from 7 a.m. to 11:30, coinciding with Royal Oak's downtown parade. Please come and get the best pancakes in town. It's a true community event, family event. We will also have some cars there that are going to be shown at our car show on August 1st, so it'll be good for the kids to view those. I also want to thank you for the cooperation of the district court judges, Derek Meineke and Andrew Kolakowski and their staffs, and Carol Schwanger and Judy Davids and their staffs at the city for our help in these events. I've also been asked to let everybody know that for the first 250 people at our pancake breakfast, first 250 adult tickets sold, there will be a $20 downtown gift certificate given for downtown dollars to spend in local restaurants or businesses. So hope to see everybody there. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Lewis. I live at 4122 Grandview. I am the house right off the alley behind Citizen State Bank next to Taco Bros, which, in case you haven't noticed, is Car Central now since Taco Bros moved in. I've lived there 13 years. I bought the house knowing that I'm literally right off Woodward. I can see Woodward out my bedroom window. It doesn't bother me. I'm into the car culture. I know what I got myself into. But up until a couple years ago, 2 things changed. Taco Bros, I think their approach to being part of the neighborhood was different than prior tenants. And engine and exhaust modifications seem to be ramping up. Now the noise is out of control. I know the gentleman prior to me mentioned speed being an issue, and yeah, I hear it. We all hear it. We all know that people drive upwards of 100 miles an hour between 13 and 14 on Woodward. Where my house is a vantage point is that the two buildings and the lot between them create like a reverberation of noise. And unfortunately, that's right beneath my bedroom window. I've gotten to the point, I've talked to Royal Oak PD multiple times. Last year, they told my husband and I, call, we want your calls, we want the feedback, we can't be eyes and ears everywhere. So I said, I hate to be a pest, I hate to, call and be bothersome. And they said, we need the calls, we need to document it. So I know that this year, since February, I have called every single Friday and Saturday, and often Sunday night, at least once, sometimes 4 or 5 times, begging the police, I know you're busy, you got bigger fish to fry, but the constant popping and nonstop revving is out of control. It is horrible. Dogs are scared, children can't sleep. Something has to be done. And I don't necessarily, feel I'm the one with all the answers, but at least I can bring awareness to a serious problem. And I think I've talked to Taco Bros owners before, and I've said, hey, you're our neighbor. You are part of the community, business or not. And if I was having house parties every Friday, Saturday night, and my neighbor was calling on me, I'd have a big issue. But I'm calling on my neighbor, and nothing's getting done. I want them to have business. I want them to have, a thriving entrepreneurial pursuit, but they're not getting customers with the lots jam-packed of kids. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, well, let's turn these back over to the
One
side.
more. Sorry. I didn't plan on speaking. Hi. After hearing a couple of the others, Tim Nutting, 3900 Hillside. I live right near Normandy and Woodward on the west side in the Royal Oak Beverly Hills subdivision. I've lived in that subdivision for, 25 years now. I didn't think I'd get emotional, it's weird. But I feel like this issue is driving me out. I built a new house in that subdivision 10 years ago because I loved being there so much 15 years prior to that. However, the constant, as soon as the weather gets nice, as soon as spring breaks, we look forward to being able to be outside and be in our yards and be part of the neighborhood, but we cannot. I'm forced to stay in my house with the windows closed, turning my volume up on my television because I can't otherwise hear it. I've many times called the police. Often they come out and then we hear it dissipate, but it's so reoccurring now, you just can't. We just give up. This Saturday night, I was listening to loud motorcycles and cars until 1 in the morning. I called at about midnight and said, I know I'm probably just one more citizen calling about this issue, but I have to put it on record. I have to say I got a bit of a on the phone by the person that answered, so that told me kind of how they felt about it, but they were polite and said, okay, we'll send somebody out, thank you. But that's not the first time I've called and I got the huff on the phone either. But I have to say, like I said, as these other people, we're very frustrated. I understand it's a big issue for the police department to address because it's nonstop and there are so many people, but how do we do it? I noticed that 14 in Woodward, there's a big sign in Birmingham saying sound, ordinance enacted. And it doesn't seem to happen so much north of Woodward. Why is Birmingham controlling it, but Royal Oak is not? But I have to say, unfortunately, I live at Dream Cruise Ground Zero is what I call it, right at Normandy and Woodward, because between 13 and 14, it is just nonstop Friday night, Saturday night. As a other neighbor unfortunately now lives by Taco Bros, it is insane there and in other places. But yeah, I don't know what else to do. I actually wrote a letter to 2 senators today and copied a couple representatives because I know Natalie Price has a bill that needs to get pushed through so that the city can then do more. I understand that, but I don't know what else as citizens we can do to say, hey, more needs to be done. Thank you.
Right. One last chance. Okay, leave on this side of the table now. Okay, now to the consent agenda. Anyone wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Am I? Oh, there's been no motion yet. Is there a motion? Move for approval? Uh, Commissioner Hunt moves to approval. A second, Commissioner Bastian. All those in favor? Discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Opposed? Okay, great. Okay, now we're on to number 8, public hearing of brownfield plan at 1225 North Main Street. And we'll turn it over to Mr. Hedges.
Yes. Good evening. Before you tonight is a brownfield plan that has been recommended by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority at 1225 North Main Street. The project involves the demolition of an existing self-serve car wash, which would be replaced by a 2-story multiple family building with 12 dwellings. That site plan for which was previously approved by the Planning Commission. The proposed brownfield plan involves the remediation of contamination at the site, along with the construction of necessary infrastructure for the project. In total, the eligible cost proposed in the brownfield plan that would be reimbursed to the petitioner by tax increment captures is $513,348. The plan is for would be in effect for 17 years if approved, but the reimbursement period for the petitioner would be limited to 15 years. However, in the plan, you will note the petitioner does estimate they believe they can be fully reimbursed, and they estimate so within the first 12 years of the plan. The remaining years up till the final 17th year would then be used for transfers into the city's brownfield revolving loan fund. The plan will capture school millage levies, but only during the first 3 years of the plan, and those would be for activities that are pre-approved by the state. Following that, only local millage levies would be captured for the plan. Public hearing is required prior to any vote on the plan this evening. Notices for the hearing have been sent to all taxing jurisdictions, as is required by state law. The petitioner is here this evening, and they have a presentation they would like to present, so I will turn it over to them.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem. Do you have the clicker power, Doug?
Yes.
Okay, great. The eligible property is a 0.3 acre parcel on North Main Street at the intersection of North Main, Crooks, and South Rochester. It is currently a vacant former auto wash building. The site is completely covered in impervious pavement and debuilding. It is qualifying for this tax incentive by being both a facility, which means it is environmentally contaminated, and it is also considered housing property via the latest amendment to Act 381. Next slide, please. The proposed project is a roughly $3.5 million investment. They will demolish the existing auto car wash, as well as all of that surface paving I mentioned, and then construct a 2-story building that will contain 12 one-bedroom apartments, as well as streetscaping in the front. Parking will be located along the rear, and it'll also have pervious paving in the back where the parking is to help with stormwater infrastructure. Here's a nice rendering of the front facade along North Main. So like I said, there'll be streetscaping, as well as a sidewalk, grass, landscaping, and then the parking spaces, including EV parking charging stations, will be located at the rear of the building. This is a high-level estimate of the eligible activities. The brownfield plan has a more detailed table of activities. It includes due care assessment and planning, the transportation and disposal of contaminated soils, the design, installation, and testing of a vapor mitigation system to protect the future residents, the demolition and abatement costs related to both the building and site improvements, the paving, and anything that might be buried underground that they discover during construction. $105,000 of infrastructure activities. This includes some substantial infrastructure connections for storm, electric, and other utilities, infrastructure, sidewalks, and landscaping along the right-of-way of the front of the building, and then the preparation of this brownfield plan. The base taxable value will be the 2025 taxable value, which is $118,000. We project that post-construction, the taxable value will be roughly $1.5 million. So it's the taxes on that increment on the 1.3 that can be captured under this brownfield plan. As Doug mentioned, the state taxes will be captured in the first couple years of the plan to reimburse with local taxes those activities that are considered pre-approved under Act 381. And then local taxes will be used to reimburse the remaining activities. Those are the environmental response activities, the vapor mitigation system I mentioned, as well as the infrastructure. The total eligible activities is 513,347. This includes a contingency, and this is a cap. The developer will track their actual eligible expenses and document those and submit the actual invoices and receipts, proof of payment that they paid those contractors for the work, and that's what's actually reimbursed. We project it'll take 12 years to reimburse all of those activities, and those terms will be subject to a reimbursement agreement, which we will take back to the BRA board next month. And then lastly, the brownfield plan does provide for 5 years of capture and deposit of tax revenues into your local brownfield redevelopment revolving fund for use as is allowed under the Act 381, and those taxes are estimated to be $279,000. Happy to, of course, answer any questions, and the developers here as well.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Hedges or the petitioner? Commissioner Cantino.
Can you just talk a little bit about some of the contamination that was found, maybe its location on the site, and then also a little bit of context on the detail of who and how the cost estimates were prepared?
Yes, of course. So my company, SME, we went out and did a subsurface assessment back in October and November of last year. We collected soil samples, groundwater samples, and soil gas samples. Mostly, we started on the northern part of the property, and when those results came back that there was contamination, we found PCE in the soil and soil gas at that time. We then remobilized, went back out to the site, took further soil gas samples in the entire footprint of where the proposed building will go to test for VOCs, for volatiles. And that data came back, and we then made the recommendation to the development team that they should install a vapor mitigation system to protect those future residents. The contamination is likely coming from the Northern Auto Repair facility, but you can't, of course, say that definitively, and since that business is still in business and will continue operating, it was the safe decision to go ahead and install that system in this new building. The costs that were provided in the brownfield plan came from the general contractor. They provided their construction budget, detailed line item by trade. I went through that with them and with the developer, and we extracted everything that is eligible to put in this plan.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hedges, now we do the public hearing.
Yes, before there's any decisions taken on the brownfield plan, you do have to open the public hearing for public comment, close it, and then the item can be then reviewed for possible decision.
Okay. So this will start the public hearing this evening regarding the request to approve a brownfield plan for the development at 1225 North Main Street. Same rules apply as before. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm throwing it back to you, Mr. Hedges.
I have nothing further. If the commission, there is a draft resolution included within our staff report to the commission. If you're inclined to adopt it, recommend its approval. That would adopt the brownfield plan and make it one of the many that we now have in place in the city. Oh, there is one typographical error in the resolution. It says that the city commission would have conducted a public hearing on May 11th. That should be changed to May 18th.
I'll move approval with the, that change that was just referenced, changing the date from May 11th to May 18th.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Cheatham. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Cantina. Discussion? Okay, seeing none. Yeah, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Okay, thank you. All right. This looks easier on TV. Okay, we're now on to item 9, rezoning of 2800 West 14 Mile Road to Planning Unit Development. First reading, Mr. Murphy.
Good evening. You have in front of you a request tonight to rezone the property at 2800 West 14 Mile. It's located at the northeast corner of 14 Mile Road and Coolidge Highway, as shown on the aerial photograph on the screen. The petitioner is requesting to change the zoning designation from industrial, its current designation of industrial, to planned unit development, or the abbreviation of PUD. This is a first reading on the amendment to the map which is associated with the zoning ordinance. The petitioner is proposing to demolish the existing 200,000 square foot manufacturing facility and to construct a 100,000 foot Kroger retail store with an associated fuel center that has 10 fuel pumps, 10 double-sided fuel pumps, 5 double-sided fuel pumps to equal 10 in total, under a canopy that's closer to the intersection. And then at the northeast corner of the site, and I'll hover over that on the rendering on the screen, they're proposing also to have a 4-story apartment building, multiple family apartment building, with 85 dwellings. The parking provided for the apartment building equates to 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling, and they'll have 6 dedicated EV charging stations for the multiple family building. The Planning Commission did, at its April 14th meeting, unanimously adopted a resolution recommending approval of this planned unit development request. There were 2 traffic impact studies that were peer-reviewed. So a traffic impact study from the petitioner that was peer-reviewed by the city's traffic engineering consultant, and all of the initial concerns or items that they felt needed to be resolved, all of those items were resolved at the last Planning Commission meeting in April. So none of those are outstanding. All of those have been addressed. The City Commission may consider a broad array of what we refer to as community benefits when considering requests for rezonings to the designation of planned unit development. And the petitioner has identified to the Planning Commission in the past a list of those what they believe are community benefits based on the guidelines that you adopted several years ago. So they can speak to those points that they provided to the Planning Commission. The one that has come up more recently is the ability to provide for attainable or affordable, something below market rate housing associated with the apartment building that's being proposed. So I'll let the petitioner speak to where they're at with that review and what they may be able to provide for your consideration. And I'll note that all of those items that are agreed to, along with all the deviations from the zoning ordinance, and you'll see those reflected in a table in your report, both of those items will be memorialized into a development agreement that you will see on second reading. So the next time you see this, all of those items that are agreed upon, and again, deviations, those will be memorialized into the development agreement that you'll consider. So with that, if you have any questions that I might be able to answer, or the petitioner as well, they do have presentation for you tonight.
Great. Questions for Mr. Murphy? Okay, I guess it's time for the petitioner.
Good evening, Madam Chair, if that's appropriate, and also members of the City Commission. I am Dennis Cowan, here tonight representing Symmetry Management, which is a developer of the site. And along with me, we have our team. We have John Friel, who is the Director of Design for Symmetry Management. Also Jeff Klatt from Krieger Klatt. Also Jamie Antonevich, who is with Atwell, our project engineer, and Carl Regner from the Kroger Company. So we have all the various components of the project are represented here this evening to answer any questions or inquiries that you may have. Without a doubt, this is a $60 million transformational project. The very first thing the project will do through demolition is to remove 210,000 square feet of industrial space. So if you drive by there, and I do pretty often because my son lives in a group home on 14 Mile, and he loves to go to McDonald's to get a Diet Coke, and I take him often. Think of that whole landscape opening up. Right now, it almost is like a Berlin Wall into Troy. And I think that whole area will certainly open up because of this project. And the benefit also to the city is we'll add 102,000 square foot state-of-the-art Kroger store, much like the one we have down in Stevenson and 12 Mile, and also an 85-unit multifamily project. So we truly are mixed use. We were very pleased to receive the unanimous support of the Planning Commission. But I must tell you, it came after 9 months and 3 meetings and a lot of input. Some skepticism at times. Initially, the project was not very well received, but we worked very hard with the Planning Commission, with the city staff, to come up with a project that would be beneficial to all. There were many changes that were made, and I'm not going to go through all of them because John's going to cover some of that walking through, but most notably is we did not have the multifamily component in the first submission to the City Planning Commission. We did not have the rain garden feature that we have on the west side of the Kroger building, nor the water feature where the retention pond is to the east of the multifamily building. We have a sidewalk that runs straight up the middle parking lot to make it easy for pedestrians off of 14 Mile. That parking lot was that sidewalk was originally 5 feet and expanded to 10 feet to make it easy for pedestrians walking up and down. So we also have a smart bus shelter. The exact location, it will be on the south perimeter. We have had some initial contact with SMART as the Planning Commission asked us, and they've responded favorably to a covered bus shelter. So we'll be working with them in the future along with city staff on that particular item. I think it goes without saying that all that dialogue we had with the Planning Commission and staff and with the traffic consultant made this into a much better project. We also have many sustainability features. We have 159 trees that will be planted on site. Currently, there are 7. I've counted them, and none of them can survive. I'm not sure they're surviving now. We've exceeded the green space requirement of 10%. We're almost at 16. We have 6 electrical charging stations, and this particular site, because of its age, has never incorporated any stormwater management practices. So this will be subject to your stormwater ordinance, and there will be stormwater management practices underneath and around and above ground at the site. We also have a national retailer who's already here and wants to be here, and their store, the question's been asked, yes, with this eventual build, the store in Troy would close. It's a smaller store, and this will be a store that has not only groceries but also soft goods paralleling what is down at 12 Mile and Stevenson. They are also a company that is committed to contributing to nonprofits in our community, such as the Detroit Zoo and Arts, Beats and Eats. And also they have an outstanding Zero Hunger, Zero Waste program where their excess food is donated to food pantries in the Detroit metro area. So that's just a brief overview of a lot of work over the last 9 months. And at this time, I'd like to call John up to go over the site with the Kroger and then delve into the multifamily site designed by Krieger Klein.
Perfect. Thanks, Dennis. John Friel, Cemetery Management. If you could bring up like an overall site plan in there. There's one that's got a lot of green, or the landscape plan, or that one there is fine too. But I think the landscape plan will show a little bit better. There we go. So Kroger, yes, there's a lot of truck traffic. There's a lot of car traffic. Then we add on the complexity of a residential piece. First thing to come to mind is public safety. How do we get people in and out of this site safely by car, by foot, by bus? How are we going to move people through and avoid truck and automobile traffic? That's the first thing that we always challenge our engineering team. So up on the upper right is the residential. Our trucks are coming on the top of that site behind the Kroger. Seems like there's a logical conflict. No, we solve that by dropping the sidewalk on the far right-hand side. So the sidewalk drops down, connects to the back of the Kroger, travels down the side of Kroger, and now you're onto the sidewalk in front of Kroger. At that moment, you have 2 choices. You can continue on westward all the way to Coolidge, or you can drop down from the Kroger onto the municipal sidewalk at 14 Mile. On 14 Mile is the bus location. We've had contact with Smart. Right now, they don't plan on putting something, but we want to make sure we have availability to have it there, okay? So we do have that availability. So let's talk about the truck traffic. I know there's been some conversation the last couple weeks, even today, about truck traffic and pedestrians and how do we get that to solve. So the main truck traffic is directly behind the Kroger building off of Coolidge. The trucks don't go on to 14 Mile. Everything is coming off of Coolidge. The trucks can travel south on Coolidge, go to the back of Kroger, and back into their truck well area. From that moment, how do they get back? They simply do a U-turn and go back out onto Coolidge. Because of the Coolidge cut, the distance from that moment south to the 14 Mile, that entry point is right in, right out, left in, left out, full access there. We don't have to restrict those movements. The traffic study proved that out. The restrictor point is at the front cut of Kroger right there on Coolidge. That's what we call a right in, right out. So you can come south on Coolidge and you won't be able to turn into there. You'll have to come basically the truck route and then go down to the side of the Kroger. But if you're coming north on Coolidge, you have a deceleration lane that we're going to install. Then you can turn right into the Kroger building. To come out of the site, you have to go north on Coolidge at that moment. To go on to 14 Mile, if you're into the Kroger lot, you'll have to go to the, southeast corner at the existing light. So we're separating truck traffic from car traffic and pedestrian traffic all at the same time through a very careful orchestration of how this site gets put together. Dennis mentioned that there's literally no green space on this site now. We're putting in over 150 trees on this site. So every island you see there is green. There's going to be a tree in almost every island. The sidewalks that cut through the center of the site from the Kroger front door to 14 Mile, wide sidewalk, landscaping protected from car traffic again. Healthy green belt at 14 Mile, lots of trees there. Healthy green belt along Coolidge, lots of trees there. Some of the amenities we've talked about on the site, Dennis mentioned the rain garden in the upper left corner right there. A little bit of a park-like moment there with some benches, trees, bike racks, all kinds of stuff, things like that. And then up on the residential, how do we, put an amenity there? So we've put in a surface pond, acts as not just a little water feature, but that's where the water, rainwater from the building area and the parking field goes into there. A little bit of sedimentation control before it gets ejected into the municipal system. So it's acting as another bio type moment. Park-like setting, sidewalks all around, benches, trees. So we have a little bit of a quiet moment there for the residential. I think the site works really well in trying to separate the pedestrian from the vehicular traffic, especially the high, volume that a grocery store would have with the trucks and the cars going in and out, but separating that. Now, on a vehicular standpoint, how do you get to the apartment building? Well, there's a light on the southeast corner of 14 Mile, and that drive lane then goes straight up to the building for the residential piece. You can see that that parking field of Kroger and that drive lane are separated by the green space. So we're trying to minimize that conflict there as well. And definitely no truck access if we can avoid it, right? So smaller trucks, bread trucks, Pepsi trucks, all those guys, right? They're still going to use that Coolidge entrance. Kroger is very careful to orchestrate their delivery program so that they don't have, 6 different trucks all in that area all at the same time. They do a very timed dance of how that is going to work. So ordinance says we need, more loading spaces. However, Kroger's model proven is exactly what we have. We don't see a need for additional. And any questions about that can be directed to Kroger themselves. And if there's any more questions, that's all I have today. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Klatt of Clear-Clad Architecture. He can talk about the facade materials.
Thank you, John. Good evening. Thank you for your time. As Dennis mentioned, we are proposing a 4-story, 85-unit apartment or multifamily building at the northeast corner of the site. John already described where it's positioned and how we're gaining access to it, but we're in the northeast corner of the site. And the design was pretty straightforward for this. You know, it's create a building that ties into our site and also the industrial neighbors around us as well. So you can kind of see the vibe in the exterior of the building. But Joe, if we can jump to the site plan, I can dig in a little bit deeper about the parking and maneuverability around this building. I think there's a colored plan somewhere in there, probably in the Atwell site. There it is. So as you can see, this portion of the site is pretty linear, pretty long in the north-south direction, so therefore our building is oriented the same way. The great thing about this is it provides simple circulation around the building. We also have simple parking around the building, which is great convenience for our tenants. John stole my thunder and dug into the beautiful green space we have around it. But to the east side, we have the park-like setting. We have our detention basin, which serves as a nice pond. We have a walkway around that, beautiful trees for seatings, for picnics, be a nice, beautiful buffer to our neighbors to the east side. It's just a great amenity for the site. A bit about the building. So again, as I mentioned, 4 stories, 85 units. We are proposing about a 3,600 square foot clubhouse on the main level. From a unit standpoint, we are proposing 32 studio units, 39 one-bedroom units, and 14 two-bedroom units. So a good mix of housing variety or unit variety for the tenants. From a building standpoint, exterior standpoint, I should say, it fits in with our surrounding neighbors. It's a fairly modern industrial vibe, as you can see. Timeless materials, brick, some metal siding. I'll wait till the elevations come up. Sorry, Joe, thank you. We have some pretty pictures in there, just taking a bit. But again, it's meant to reflect our surrounding neighbors. Timeless materials, brick, you can see some accent banding, beautiful canopy up front to add some dimension to the building. Then our upper story, to help break up some of the massing, we're proposing more of a metal siding. So simple window arrangement. There's some breakup of the facade. You can see some indents along the east and west side to help break up that massing a bit. But again, fairly simple, fairly straightforward, reflects the character of the neighborhood. And that's about it. Any questions, please let us know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, just to close, I did submit to the commission, as I had with the planning commission, the list of community benefits. Not going to go through all those because you can read and you know what they are. But I would just like to mention one very prominent one because it's the first time I've ever seen this, and that is that Kroger requires contractors to recycle a minimum of 90% of all construction and demolition waste. I've confirmed that with Mr. Regner today of Kroger, and the contractor doesn't get paid by Kroger until they prove that they recycled the materials through invoices and other information. So they are firmly committed to that aspect and are willing to provide monthly reports. Last but not least, at the last meeting of the Planning Commission, Frank Jarbo, who is the CEO of Symmetry and apologizes for not being here tonight. He was on a long-standing commitment out of town. He wanted me to say that as for affordable housing, he is committed to the affordable housing. Do not have the figures that he would like to present this evening. We believe those will be available in the very near future, and if you do advance this evening by the time of that next meeting. He hired a consultant, Nick Maloof, who does this kind of work full-time, right after the approval, or rather recommendation by the Planning Commission. So he knew he had something in hand and that there were 85 units there. And he is working through developing a report for the company so that they can make an informed decision, and I hope you all appreciate that. Would have loved to have all that information for tonight, but we don't have it. But it is being compiled, and we'll report back to you on what the company's decision is with respect to affordable housing. But as I said, Mr. Jalbo wanted to communicate that he is committed to doing affordable housing at this site. So with that, we'll answer any questions that you have from any member of the team.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I do have a lot of questions around the affordable housing. I want to start with some other things first to get to.
Sure.
I want to talk about on page 5 of the packet, Mr. Murphy. I see the only call out I can find for EV charging, which is part of the Atwell plans that shows 6 spaces, but I didn't see anything else indicating the EV, what's being used, where they're going, where the spots are, and I didn't see them on any other page besides this one. So one, I just wanted to make sure that this is where you intend on paying 6 EV spots for the 85 units of housing.
No, the 6 EV spots are located so they could be used by either someone from Kroger or the housing facility. They're right on the edge there.
So Kroger believes someone will walk all the way to the back behind where all their loading trucks go to charge their car at the back of the store, then walk to the floor of the store?
Yeah, that's where that has been determined to be the location. And yes, people will walk. Sometimes people are there for 45 minutes to an hour, and that's not that far of a walk.
So I did notice there's also the multiple fueling stations at the front of the site. Has Kroger put any considerations to adding EV charging into the front parking lot also, so that'd be on the south side of the building?
The short answer is no.
No, not at this time. That could change based on demand, but not at this time.
Okay, so it seems not to be prioritized by them.
It seems what?
Seems to not be prioritized, because it's on the north side, it's clearly for the residential units. I mean, it's not, which is amazing, it's 85 residential units that they're going to need EV charging. So I'm happy to see that if there's charging for those EV units. I'll note that Meyer, just up the road, does have EV charging conveniently available for people using their facility. So then also, another question then, since it seems to be Kroger doesn't want EV charging for some reason, the east elevation on page 16 shows the proposed sidewalk to get from these residential units over to any of the roads. And I'm asking this because, let's see, so this is going to be the east elevation. It looks like you walk along a pretty depressing blank building. Has any consideration been put into painting a facade, something along that building, public art, a mural of any sort, to make that walk more hospitable to people? Because if you go to page 27, Mr. Murphy, and
well, the walk is from, if I could, the walk is from the south end of the building across the eastern exposure of the Kroger building.
Yeah,
so you need to get the eastern exposure.
Yeah, if we can zoom in that picture on the upper left corner there.
Yeah.
You can even see in this rendering, it's dark, it's full sunlight here, and it's very dark in that corner. So if this is where you expect
well, that's
pedestrians,
only because of where the shade is. That at that time in the morning, the sun is facing that eastern exposure.
Sure. So for half the day.
Well, that's anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but all I'm saying though is
it's lit also in the evening.
Yes. All I'm saying is though, between the rendering we saw, where it's just a plain building, if we're expecting the residents to come down here, the walk path is that way. Has any consideration been into public art, anything to make that facade, that front, be more of a welcoming environment for people walking back and forth, so they can potentially get to a bus route, or if they're going even to the grocery store?
Not the public art concept, though.
Okay. Okay, those make your questions now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. With regards to the gas station or the fueling station, I understand that there was a lighting study done. I didn't necessarily see it in the material. The lighting, in the fueling station.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that with regards to the luminaires and that it's not extruding onto the outer areas? We
I'm gonna
had
have, Jamie come up and address that.
thank you.
Jamie Antonovich with Atwell. So we're following zoning ordinance along, or within the fuel station. Everything under the canopy is meeting the requirements, maximum of 10-foot candles. So that is, as far as fuel station goes, on the lower end, but, we're adhering to the city requirements.
Okay. And is the gas station, will that be like 24 hours, or will it be closed or open along with the hours of the store?
It'll follow the hours
of the store. Okay. My next question is with regards to the multifamily housing unit. Is there, Commissioner Colo just talked about, walking from the multifamily to the store. Is there any path to 14 Mile or to any of the outside streets from, like a safe walking path?
Yeah, that was kind of touched on a little bit. There is a raised, behind curb path from the apartments to the store, along the store, which is also protected, to the front of the store, and then down the middle, that is a raised sidewalk as well.
So you have to travel like the perimeter of the store almost to get to 14 Mile?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a shared driveway along the east side, so it doesn't offer much in the way of adding a sidewalk along that area.
All right. I think those are my questions with the exception of workforce housing, and I think we may get to that a little later, so. Thank you.
You might want to stay up. I have a couple more questions about pedestrians. How would somebody who lives in the apartment building get to Coolidge, walk to Coolidge, not by car, but by foot?
I think if you want to bring that back up, Mr. Murphy. They would go directly, but just go directly south from the apartment building along the sidewalk and then the pathway, which will be identified, and then over to the east side of the Kroger building, around to the front, and then that sideway and pathway, if you don't go in the store, continues all the way over to Coolidge. So that would be the route that you'd take.
Okay. I'm gonna want to pull that up, but okay. So then I had another question about the pathway from the apartments to the northeast corner of Kroger. So there is a drawing, oh gosh, I didn't have the page numbers prepared like Commissioner Colo did, but there is a rendering that shows the truck U-turn, or not rendering, I'm sorry, a drawing. There's probably a more technical term for that. That had the truck turnaround. My concern is that it looks to me like the truck turnaround overlaps with the pedestrian sidewalk.
There's an offset. The sidewalk is away from.
Yeah.
There's enough space there between the truck turn and the route we have defined.
I'm gonna try to find that page.
Is it
the one with where the, I don't know the page number. 5, thank you.
You want to direct it to where the offset is?
Yeah, they can, zoom in
Okay.
here.
See, if you see the sidewalk, okay, go ahead. You explain. Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, that area to the north is behind a curb, and then in front of that is the ability to kind of be in front of where the truck turns are. Now, the truck deliveries aren't constant. We're offering some striped and defined areas to get around that.
But is it not going over the sidewalk?
I mean, through that striped area, I guess as depicted,
right
there could be some overlap shown.
There is some overlap shown.
But that is not the only way a truck can go.
Tell me more about that's not the only way a truck could go,
Well,
because
I'm
that's
saying
how you're
that
directing them.
exact way it's driven is not the only way it can get in and out of that area. So we have a defined area for pedestrians, but this isn't a constant truck movement, nor would the pedestrian traffic be constant. If we want to draw that slightly tighter, move it over, a few feet, that could be done. That's just
I'm
how
less
it's
worried
drawn.
about how it's drawn, and I'm more concerned about how it's going to actually happen in practice.
Yeah.
So I understand that trucks aren't going to be coming in all the time, but I also imagine they're coming in sometimes when it's not light out, and trucks are tall, and people are generally shorter than trucks.
Correct.
And so I'm very concerned about expecting people who live in these 85 units, that's, a fair amount of people, walking, you're telling them they have to, if they're gonna walk, they have to walk on that path, but you're also going to share that with trucks. What options do we have to make that more safe? Because this really concerns me.
I mean, other than that route, which is something we don't currently have control of, would be pushing pedestrians out to the northeast toward Parmenter, but that's not public right of way. I mean, that area.
But you also want to get people out to where they want to
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
And so, where are people going to want to go? They're probably going to want to go to those more major roads where they might be able to catch a bus, where they might walk to Myers. I don't know.
Right.
So, this doesn't seem like this was, that you really had in mind people might be walking out of the building. It seemed to me, looking at this, that this plan was for only preparing for people to drive out of there. And I don't know if you're going to have pets allowed in this apartment complex, but people are going to want to walk their dogs. Where are they taking their dogs?
I mean, we do offer the on-site pass and, park area and pond area for some of that more direct access. I mean, we are open to discussion or thoughts on that, but based on our opinion, that fulfills the requirement to get people south in the, which will mostly not be trucks there.
Okay, thank you.
I guess just following up on Commissioner Cheesen's point, I guess this path, it would seem, could be pushed to that driveway and be, everything, if it's shift a little with that driveway that's just to the east there, would probably solve a lot of the problems, including some of my problems about how it's lit in against a dark building. It feels like that path would be better in a different place than it is right now.
So I'm not sure about the placement of the path, and I'm not sure that I want to, am able to have the expertise to solve that exact issue. I do think lighting is a concern there because I don't see lighting, but maybe there is lighting there, but I do feel like it will be important to have lighting along any pathways that you're expecting pedestrians to go. And maybe the pathway does need to be moved, but I couldn't really speak to that.
We could certainly provide lighting to that area. I'm not the lighting expert, and I don't know the lighting plan, but I don't think that's anything that's difficult to do.
To be clear, I mean, I absolutely mean this area, but to me, that doesn't solve the issue of the truck being planned to use the same space as the pedestrians, but that would absolutely be a lighting essential place. But I think any place where you are trying to steer pedestrians, I think should be well lit for lots of different safety reasons.
We can do that. We'll see too if there's any possible movement. The problem we have is there's the drive from 14 Mile that goes all the way to the back, and the property immediately to the east is not owned by the developer. That is Vogue Furniture, which has been very supportive of the project. Their owner came to a couple meetings. He's very pleased to see something happen with the site after many, many years of being vacant. But we could take a look at that sidewalk, perhaps see if there's any chance to move it a little bit more, and also to make sure it's lighted.
So on the same topic, some of this discussion came up at Planning Commission with regards to if that is intended to be the the public sidewalk and how the pedestrians access the front of the store. My questions are a few. One, what is the width of that sidewalk area? And then two, is that at the same elevation as the parking lot itself, or is it a raised curb? Because some of the considerations we had at planning with the central walkway going through the main part of the parking lot was when vehicles are parked in those parking spaces, if it's a large pickup truck with a hitch sticking out the back, whatever it may be, if it's a raised curb and there's not enough sidewalk width there, there's a conflict. If it's not a raised curb, vehicles pulling too far back creates a conflict. So if this is intended to be the pedestrian access to the front, other than it just being visually delineated from the parking area, what other provisions are there for it to protect the pedestrians?
Do we have a?
Yeah, so that is 10 feet wide raised curb with a 5-foot walk in the middle. So that offers 2.5 feet of overhang.
The middle aisle, I'm talking about the east side.
Are you talking about along the building? Or just?
No, the connection.
I'm talking about the pathway that we've been discussing for the last several minutes along the east side of the building.
From the apartments down to the truck turn, it's behind the curb, so raised and separated. There's no, I guess, front end parking there. If you're talking along the building, though, that is also raised. I don't recall the dimension offhand, but I could look at that.
The reason I ask is it looks rather narrow, and the same issues that came up, which, and I appreciate the design revisions that widen that middle pathway, are the same issues that come up here, and this actually seems quite a bit narrower than that central walkway. So I think those issues are actually exacerbated along this side.
I mean, the depth of those spaces, we could either parking block to provide a 2-foot offset or widen the sidewalk to achieve the same thing, because there are 20-foot depth parking spaces.
So at the December planning meeting, committee meeting, Mr. Jarbo volunteered that there would be workforce housing offered.
It was in the April meeting.
I thought it was offered, and then it was discussed again at the April meeting of there actually being workforce housing that he is working with Mr. Malouf.
Yeah. I think somebody, if I could, having been there, I believe at the December meeting it was discussed. I don't think he made a commitment until the April meeting. I just want to be clear on the record. We haven't, because that's a 5-month period, and I just want to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
So I'll say for me, I wasn't a huge fan of the project until we saw the multifamily housing component and then the offer of workforce housing. So I'm a little disappointed now that we don't necessarily have any more specifics as it relates to how many units and what is the plan forward in getting those units.
Well, if I could just explain, in any given project, there's a number of processes that go through. The first issue that we had to deal with here was an approved site plan or a recommended site plan, as well as the functionality both for the apartment building and Kroger and its visitors and customers. So that was first and foremost. Sometimes these issues don't come on till later. There's a project that we have in town right now that a decision about workforce housing wasn't made until all the approvals were granted, and then the owner decided to go the workforce housing route. So I can tell you from having been involved in this that Mr. Jalbro only made that decision after the April meeting with the Planning Commission, and it does take a little bit of time. This is not something that is just a snap decision. There's a lot of issues that have to do with your financing, how is it going to work, and how many units you want to do. And rather than come in here and tell you something that wasn't accurate, he wants to make sure it's accurate and ask for a report from his consultant, and we will have that for you at the next meeting when this matter is hopefully under consideration again, and we can share all those details. But as I've said, he wanted me to communicate that he is committed to making a workplace affordable housing here. He just wants the right details to give you the right number of units and that type of information. But again, it's a big decision. You know, we've had projects that just doesn't work for that project. So he wants to make sure it works for this project and works for the city and then works for the ultimate tenants.
And I appreciate that. I understand it's not just, you know, checking a box and saying you're going to have workforce housing. But I want to make sure that before we leave here tonight, if we're moving this plan forward, that because right now there's nothing in the documents indicating that that workforce housing is being considered. So I want to make sure that we do have some language that there will be workforce housing. We don't know how many units at this point, but it is something that will be incorporated into this particular project.
Well, you could pass this tonight with, or first step, with the proviso that the workforce housing details be provided
prior to
at the next meeting. Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to mention, I think everybody appreciates, as you know, we have a community benefits that's a menu, and we've met many other aspects of it, and this one was a later decision, but I think it's something that is going to ultimately advance the goals of the city to have workforce housing.
And I'll say I appreciate the fact that this is a project that is bringing multifamily housing, it's bringing more housing units and diverse housing to our community, which is much needed. But I do think we also need that more affordable type housing for our residents or the workers of our community. So those are just my thoughts. I don't know what my fellow commissioners think about moving this forward with
Thanks. I have a question about the potential workforce housing. Is there any financing that would be sought as part of financing the workforce component of that?
Yes.
So that'd be through
would come with a
MISTA,
request
LIHTC?
For the brownfield housing plan would be put forth at some point subsequent to approval. Yeah. And that would probably, as I referenced in my letter, include some component of what I call the straight brownfield for work at the site, but also in demolition, which is significant, but also the would definitely be asking for a housing brownfield plan to be approved. For of course, just the house will only be for the multifamily, not for the Kroger building. Yeah, just to clarify that. Yeah.
So, excuse me, just want to clarify a couple of things. So this project did come before the Planning Commission in December, where no action was taken, and then back again in April. But at the December meeting, as part of the packet, in a letter that was provided by the applicant, it did state, it specifically stated, at the time of the City Commission consideration, CMNtv will be able to provide specificity to its commitment. That was in a December letter, part of the December packet for the project review. I'm a little disappointed that we're here at this point and there's still not any detail on this component of it. I do agree that it's very challenging when you have a market rate project and you're trying to layer in an element of affordability. It makes it much more complex. I think there's been a lot of time to kind of figure out if that's something that's going to be possible. I also agree that there are certainly a number of other community benefits that have been listed as that the project's providing. But this is a pretty critical one, pretty important one, at least from my perspective. And I'm just a little disappointed to see that there's not any more information about what the commitment is today from when it was first mentioned from the applicant in the packet from the December meeting. I get that it's very challenging and difficult to kind of come up with this information, but I feel like you've had plenty of time to get to some more level of detail, because as Commissioner Hunt just mentioned, right now we've got nothing to understand what the value of that component of your community benefits brings, because it's simply just a statement without any quantification.
I would just like to respond in this fashion. This is one aspect of a $60 million project. I think when you look on balance, we've supplied all types of benefits and a very significant project to accomplish and activate an activity center, which is an important goal. And we will get to that point, and we're telling you here tonight that before you do a final vote on this, you will have that information and choose to accept it, hopefully. We just don't have it right now. And I think if it was, as we referenced it in December, I hope you can appreciate, we still had miles to go because we didn't know what the final outcome was going to be. We were very pleased that it was unanimous vote by the Planning Commission, and that gave the springboard to look very seriously, which is being done right now with a consultant and a report that's forthcoming to Symmetry Management.
Sorry, I'm going back to my walking thing. Because, so I heard your answer about walking out to Coolidge, but it requires pedestrians to walk around the store. And just, humans can be kind of lazy, and I don't know that they're going to do that. And so I'm just also concerned, I feel like we're going to end up with a lot of pedestrians walking out the route that the trucks are coming in. And while that may be them making bad decisions, I still think that there's a design aspect here that really did not consider, in my opinion, did not consider pedestrians adequately. I really, I'm always up here pro-housing. I want more housing. I want great housing. But this really concerns me that we're putting people out in this apartment complex, and there's just no way to get out from their apartment safely except via car. Now, the pathway through the parking lot, I had concerns about that, but that I think is large. If you have some lighting, and as long as that's, got some, it's raised, because initially when I watched the planning meeting in April, one of my other concerns, which wasn't talked about, was when there's snow, you can't see lines, you can't see where pathways are. So I'm glad that it sounds like that's slightly elevated. There's a little bit more of a buffer with the cars because it's wider. So that makes me feel better about that pathway through the parking lot. But I'm still just really concerned about this apartment building. How are folks coming west to Coolidge and then south to Kroger, and juggling with the truck traffic. I understand that they're not always going to be trucks and people at the same time, but there's going to sometimes be trucks and people there at the same time. And I really want to see that safer. So I'm really hesitant about this project as it is presented right now.
I think we can take a look between now and the next time this is considered at what improvements, as we've already mentioned, we can improve. If it's not on the lighting plan, we can certainly add it or reference it. Jamie's indicated perhaps we might be able to do something with the sidewalk in terms of some movement on the south. But as John mentioned in the original in his part of the presentation, we did not want to have a sidewalk across with that driveway going out to Coolidge because of the temptation that people would have being there to just walk in the street. And that is where we know and where Kroger is designating the truck traffic to go, so it stays away from those cars and pedestrians that are in the front of the store. So if safety is an issue, we believe that is a safety issue, and just by keeping people off of that street, people certainly can bike down that driveway or down that drive because that's allowed. You can ride your bike on driveways, or if you so choose, or on streets, and whether there's bike lanes or not. And I think that was the main focus for having people come from walking tenants down across the side of the building. And we're only talking about, how many feet is that from the apartment building down to the front of the store? Is that?
And really measurably.
Yeah.
400 feet?
Huh?
400 feet?
It's about 400 feet. So if you walk down that way, if that's your ultimate destination, yes. Now, I will also say that it's not part of this plan, but it was discussed. I think Mr. Gattina would recall this at the Planning Commission. On the northeast side, if you want to use that, or in the northeast corner, we have Parmentier, which dead ends into the property. Parmentier, however, has been vacated. Now, no one's seen, I haven't seen yet the document that vacated that street and if there was any retention of any sidewalks. But on the north side of Parmentier, which is the south end of the IDS building, the vocational school, there is a sidewalk that goes all the way across that to about 25 or 30 feet, and then it stops. And we have indicated that if the city can acquire the right, because it's not our property, for a walkway the rest of the way, and if that sidewalk is in fact protected, that we would certainly open up that corner for an additional bike and a pedestrian pathway at our cost at that juncture, because there's a wall there right now, and that would have to be opened up and made into something that was appropriate. So that, you know, that's another issue we can look at in terms of walkability. So I just wanted to let you know that. But that, again, that's probably going to be something post-approval that's going to be looked into, but we've made that commitment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I will say, I feel like some of my fellow commissioners might feel the same. I don't think any of us love this project, but I think we want to see a way for this to get developed eventually. I think this is good to activate that corner, get rid of this old industrial, get a grocery store and housing. I think these are all good things. I think we're just missing some details to get us over the hump here. If things don't change, I'd be a no right now. But I think we've talked a lot about improving pedestrian safety in general. I think that these paths need to be redesigned and looked at, especially the ones that Commissioner Cheatham, Commissioner Hunt and I have been talking about on the northeast side of the building. I think there's real consideration for that. I think that, we talked about community benefits and the housing as being one of the benefits. I'm also concerned, even though we're talking about the attainable aspect of it, there's nothing that ties the housing to have to be built in this also. They could choose to just not build. Only the Kroger could go in. Now, I know that that there are full, plans that, you want this to happen. I would like to see that as part of the contract, that the housing is also built. I think that you have time here to go back and make some changes to these plans. If we were to say yes tonight on a first reading, it's a very loose first reading, understanding that I think you'd have a lot of no's on second reading from people that might say yes tonight. But I think that you would have to improve the site safety, and I would want a condition that our consultants, our traffic consultants, look at the traffic flow on site, so we're not just taking your architect's word for it, but it's also our traffic consultants have verified that. So we're not just talking about like maybe moving that blue box, but it's actually verified independently. I think that's fair to do a third-party verification on something that's been a constraint to the commission here.
I can just say that the HRC wrote a letter, because I've seen it, accepting the site plan from a traffic viewpoint. I don't know how deeply they delved into that particular issue, but if that's something that we can look at in a quick period of time, we'd be glad to do that.
And of course, we're talking about some substantial changes to this, right? I don't think, if you come back to us with that same path you have, I'm a no. So, and I think you have other no's up here. So I would hope that you come back with a different walkway, a different path, something different.
You've mentioned safety issues. If we can take care of the safety issues, then we don't have to move. There's only so much space there to put a connector, which is what the Planning Commission suggested, and also what HRC suggested. And HRC did review where the sidewalk was, because we submitted that information. So, but we're glad to take a second look at it.
Yeah, and a lot of smart minds in this room will come to that. I, personally would want EV in the front on the south side of the building. I think it's reasonable to ask that it's close. There's EV for both the multifamily units and part of the shopping center. I think those are two very distinct areas. And then you've talked about this easement. I would ask that you all work to set up the agreement on the easement that we execute, that you find the easement, that you put the research into that so we can execute that easement. So those would be things that I would look to see before executing a second approval. but if my fellow commissioners agree with me, I would then move approval on first reading. That's not a motion, I just want to hear. There's no motion, These are all ideas. If we agree with them, I make a motion. This is a, Ms. Markham, this is a PUD. This is first reading tonight. There's a second reading that will come forward where there would be substantial changes between a first reading and a second reading. So this is almost like a preliminary, it would be a preliminary approval to allow them to go back and make whatever changes they've heard us discuss tonight that they think would win them the required votes.
That's correct. There is a required
second reading.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard you say approval on first reading, and I was just incredibly confused, so thank you. Okay.
I don't know that I necessarily followed your comments with regards to the workforce housing component, but I do want to make sure that there is something between now and second reading, if this were to pass, that there would be, some concrete plan, or at least an advancement of a plan to give us some idea of how many units and what's being done for that funding for purposes of at least getting us toward either attainable housing or the workforce housing. I understand there's differences with regards to the percentages of AMI, but it's my understanding that it was workforce housing that was offered in, and I'm pretty sure it was December and April. So I am really interested in making sure that that's a part of what we see next.
Yeah, no, we understand on that affordable workforce housing what the commission desires, and we'll meet those requirements. That's consistent with your past practice.
Okay, so with that said, in a very preliminary way, I move approval on first reading.
I'm sorry. Please explain this to me again. Approval of what on first reading?
Approval of the plan on first reading simply moves it to second reading, with the petitioner being given all of the feedback that they've been given.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It does not approve the project to move forward.
Okay, but we're approving I'm sorry. We're approving the plan. It needs to come back for a second reading, but why are we approving, it just, okay, I think I got it, okay.
The second reading is the built-in procedural mechanism for the commission to be able to get additional information and be satisfied with the project. The only other option would be postponing first reading to a later date, which would be not the clean way of doing it in this particular situation, since there is the built-in mechanism of the second reading.
All right, but we are not actually saying that we really like this plan.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's been made clear to the
All right,
petitioner.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm voting on, although I'm probably voting the same way anyway. Okay, bye. Okay, thanks.
Discussion.
So my question is around some of the discussion that we just had in terms of some of the changes we would like to see be incorporated and sort of giving that feedback to the applicant. My question is around sort of what's not documented in terms of the packet, what's not been offered in a documented form by the applicant, most notably the workforce housing piece. There's been a lot of discussion in terms of what the applicant has stated they are committed to. By making a motion that doesn't specifically include a contingency to require a component of workforce housing as stated by the applicant, are we effectively weakening our ability to make sure we have that upon second reading? Did that question make sense? I can say it more clearly. If we're going to be doing, if we're voting on a preliminary approval today as submitted, and it does not include any language related to workforce housing, does that weaken our position in the future to make sure it's incorporated into the project?
Well, certainly you would be able to evaluate on second reading whether you're satisfied with the project as a whole, given what the commission has explained to the petitioner tonight, and that would be realistically up or down at the second reading, whether the commission was satisfied with it or not.
Yeah, I would say, as a commissioner, this is 6 years now. We've seen this in the past where stuff has changed drastically from first reading to second reading. Petitioners will take what they hear at the table tonight with that feedback, and they know that the next reading, I think a lot of us have made it clear, would be a no vote at the next reading. This just moves it to that step so that they know we've all said a lot about what we want to see in this next process. I think we are not taking, at least I'm not taking verbal commitments. I think once it gets to the contract stage, which is what the PUD is, we would expect everything presented to us in a very clean fashion before second reading. And if it's not there in second reading, it just wouldn't get approved, presumably.
Is there a time limit of, this is really loud, a time from first reading to second reading? Is there a time limit?
I think, I'm looking at Mr. Murphy to confirm my suspicions, I would say, or Mr. Hedges, it's probably dictated by state law, the year. Is it a year, like from, similar to, like you lose a variance if you don't break ground within a year?
We're scratching our heads. I don't know the answer off the top of it, unless he has something.
I know there's a provision in state law of how long they have to apply to the city commission for final PUD review after the planning commission takes action.
That's 6 months.
I believe that's 6 months. I'm not aware of any provision that limits the amount of time they have to obtain final approval once it's before the city commission. But I would have to double check with the Zoning Enabling Act and also the article in our zoning ordinance on PUDs. I don't believe there is, but I can't say for certain.
And whether there's anything in the charter as well.
So 2 things I would note. Number one, I think the 6 months might be helpful guidance potentially that we could kind of piggyback on, but we'll get back to you with an answer on that. As far as time frame, I'm sure the petitioners would also like to know that as well, to know how much time they would have to work on this plan. And then number 2 is obviously between now and then, we would also work on a development agreement, and that would also incorporate the changes as revised. That would also memorialize, so coming back for second reading, that development agreement would also incorporate some of this as an added layer of, I guess, protection for the unknown that's been presented to hopefully solidify that a little better between first and second reading.
Thank you. So I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents in this too. We very much appreciate that there's housing a part of this project. It's a big priority for the commission. I also, the community benefits is a guide, and we're grateful that you put in some environmental sustainability things that we also very much prioritize. The reason why I asked about the timing is we're doing quite a few affordable housing projects in the city, so we are very aware of the process there, and that it takes a really long time to get the financing and the numbers right to make it good for your project. And so it feels like because there is no information from December and April, that we're kind of behind, especially if there is a time limit on my mic is loud and quiet, especially if there's a time limit for the second reading. So we prioritize affordable housing. We're trying to find those projects in the city. And when we have someone that says that they also prioritized it, we would have thought that we would have seen some numbers or some work being done on that as well. I'm not speaking to anyone in this room, but sometimes, as far as when I've been a commissioner for the past 3 years, developers come and they promise things to us, and then they don't actually deliver them for whatever reason. And so we want to get out of the space of coming up and saying a buzzword that we're all very interested in, and it's in the newspaper that we're looking for affordable housing, and we want developers not to come up and say the buzzword, and then at the end of the day, they can't actually, then we approve it, and then they actually can't do the thing that they said that they could do. So I think that's what all of us are pausing on, is we're very excited about the affordable housing aspect of this project. I think that's why it moved forward so much. But then now we're not really seeing any of the evidence of that it is a priority for this project. Like my other colleagues said about safety and walking, there's bus routes on Coolidge and 14 Mile. And it seems like the project is really centered around, obviously, Kroger and moving cars in and out of that space. And so I also agree that we need to take into account people walking through the site. I think that is all of my comments. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I just want to say, it sounds like a lot of my colleagues are a yes, and you might get them to a no. I am sitting in the opposite space where I'm a no, and I think it sounds like it's, you probably have enough support to get this to a second reading, and maybe you can make me a yes. I feel like this was premature coming to us tonight, because I feel like it wasn't only the workforce housing that we don't have details on, but I heard, yeah, there's a SMART bus stop, it can have a covered stop, and then I heard SMART isn't actually interested in that. And I heard about this easement. Somebody said that tonight. That isn't something that SMART's doing at this point. Somebody said that tonight. Somebody said we're talking with SMART, and then someone. Okay, then somebody said something different. But okay. And then also this talk about potentially an easement and maybe a pathway, but that also doesn't sound like it's really been adequately explored to bring it to us with any certainty. I have a lot of with these 3 points just coming in here really fuzzy. I just feel like this came to us before it was really ready to be really fully presented to us, to really show us that you're serious about the things that we're asking for, that planning asked for in the April meeting. And so for me, the safety issues are really pretty significant for me, the safety about pedestrians and trucks. And I just would like to see projects come to us with pedestrians, and I focus on pedestrians, but also cyclists in mind. We are really looking to activate this whole area. If you've seen in our master plan, like this is an area that we're really looking to be a very vibrant area with a mix of housing and businesses, and giving people the opportunity to walk between those is really important to us. And so that is my explanation for why I will be a no on this, and I hope that you can get me to a yes at second reading.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Cowan and team, I appreciate your coming before us this evening. I appreciate what you've been able to put together. I feel as though Commissioner Cheatham really just struck the nail on the head. Ultimately, it feels as though while significant community benefit could come from this project, and while thought was absolutely put into it, it feels incomplete. And while we absolutely appreciate your position and that you come to us with a plan and you've gone through planning, and that is a very difficult and arduous process, to come before the commission with information that feels incomplete puts us in a tenuous position. Ultimately, we are responsible to the people of this community to look out for the community's best interests. And we want to do that. We all take that very seriously. There are clearly some very intelligent and thoughtful people that are on this dais. And it is not that we do not want to help in the development of the community. And it's not as though we do not want to provide benefits to the community, but it is easier for us to do that when what is brought before us is well presented, completely thought out, and it gives us the best opportunity to have the ability to approve something without further discussion or concerns. And it's just, ultimately, you just have people that are concerned about their community, looking out for the best of their community.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, while I appreciate the concerns I've heard up here tonight, I do hope it passes on first reading so that it can come back to us in a complete form on second reading. I think that it has great potential to be a transformational project for the area, which is currently dying industrial. So it's parcel is not activated, we can activate it. I think that the comments have been taken by the applicants tonight. Probably lessons learned, and different projects might look different in the future, but I think what we have on the table tonight has great potential to be a good project in this community, and really look forward to what I see on the second reading, because I think we can get to a really good project there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Approval of the 2026-2027 downtown outdoor ice rink agreement.
Thank you. Presented for your consideration this evening is a proposed agreement between JWA and Associates and the City of Royal Oak to operate the rink at Royal Oak. The agreement before you is substantially the same as last year's agreement. The only difference is a slight uptick in projected total costs. Thus, that results in a slight uptick of the potential operating deficit after removing all other funding sources that the city could be held potentially liable for, I guess you could say, for those costs at the end of the day, if indeed there are absolutely no income whatsoever aside from what Mr. Witz raises. Again, very small, minor increases. Other than that, the contract has been successful, remains the same as last year. Mr. Witz is here. I believe he would like to speak and give a brief recap and can provide any additional information that the commission may be desirous of obtaining.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry. I appreciate the opportunity to bring the rink at Royal Oak back for the 5th year. I remember the process that it took to move this forward, and the same kind of thoughtful insights that I've witnessed this evening, and the just the making sure that we move forward in a good way. And I feel we've had a great track record over 4 years. This past year, I think we've adjusted the numbers a little bit because of the tough weather we had. That was, I would say, the only negative side. We had to close 8 days this year, which was a record. And if you look at revenue from skating was down because of some of the temperatures, but we offset most of that with additional corporate sponsorships above what we had pledged. So that was a net loss of $6,000, which why I think the deficit was down a little bit. Attendance was solid with 25,000 skaters and spectators over the 3 months, which is still a strong number. Earned publicity quickly. If you put it in conjunction with the Royal Oak holidays, so I won't restate that in the next presentation, our publicity was valued at $1.8 million, 500 stories between the rink and the holidays, and 50 million viewers of those stories. So in addition to being a great community benefit, it really is an uplifter of positive, stories. Unfortunately, as a city, we deal with so much unreasonable, false negativity, as we've seen. It is so great to show people how vibrant, this is, and no one can say, no, you don't hear anything on the blogs anymore. We've just proved it with just great community engagement and enjoyment of this facility. Speaking of community engagement, that was great. The toy drive collected 1,500 toys for cancer patients. The Sabio food drive collected food for Forgotten Harvest. We featured more than 10 birthday parties that were planned and about 30 that just showed up and celebrated birthdays. There were 2 corporate events, and then my favorite, if you know, is the Boys and Girls Mini Mites Hockey, which brought hundreds of family members, lifted up the business community on 2 of the coldest days of the year. And if you watch those kids play, there's nothing better. There were 5 free skate days again, 500 students. Improvements that will carry into next year included more benches for changing, upgraded wood fencing on the perimeter, new gazebos, and new for next season will be a new skate house and concession area structure. You have to close these out right. The Arts Beats and Eats Festival did a deal with Worry Free, so at no cost to the city. There was resodding of the grass, and I took photos of that today, and it's looking really good. And I'm just happy to say it's just come together that the rain has paid some dividends for the city, in terms of getting that grass really looking good. For the coming season, we once again pledged to raise $130,000 minimum above what the city and DDA are providing, which makes this funding, as I've said, a great partnership. Corporate citizens, city funding from the DDA, and the people that utilize the rink. It is just such a nice partnership. And I will close with just saying we've gotten our first commitment already from M3, which maybe I went to them prematurely before approval, but there's been a pledge again for them to be the title presenting sponsor, and I want to recognize past sponsors, which I think really enjoyed the project, that hopefully will be back with us: Cornerstone Community Financial, Henry Ford Health, DTE, Soaring Eagle. Last thing, we also will be researching a permanent rink from the same company, so there might be some efficiencies now that we're in year 5. If we can bring those together before that, we might bring that concept to everybody, but that's something we're going to be in heavy research on over the summer. So that's, I'm available for questions, and I hope that was quick enough, much better than the deck I sent. I got through it much faster, so.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it, and I can't believe we're talking about an ice rink when it's almost 90 degrees, but it's always a fun spot in our city during the winter. Is there any questions for Mr. Witz? Commissioner Cheatham?
No, I'll move approval. I think that this is a real jewel in our city.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Cheatham, second by Commissioner Hunt. Discussion.
I'm only voting yes if they're not lime green huts this year.
We will agree to that stipulation without a second reading. So.
That was offered by the petitioner.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're on to item 11, approval of city sponsorship of the 2026-2027 Royal Oak Holidays Program. Again, Mr. Fettowski.
Thank you. On the agenda for your consideration is a request for a sponsorship with JWA to fund the Royal Oak Holidays Program. Unlike the rink, where the city has the contract with JWA, for the holidays, the contract is held by the DDA. I believe they're examining it this Wednesday. So the ask here is simply for the sponsorship for an amended holiday program, lessons learned over the last couple of seasons, or 2 seasons, I should say, regarding that, and I'll let John highlight what those changes are. But again, this is simply a sponsorship request. There's no agreement for your consideration to approve. There's a recap and the proposal for your review. Again, I believe the DDA will be considering both of these items on their agenda as well this Wednesday evening. But again, this is for sponsorship for the holiday programming.
I'm going to just start this presentation, which hopefully will be a little briefer, or a little more brief. But just a thank you to Chief Moore and Public Safety, just for the support, not only on the permitting, some of the changes we had to make due to weather, an additional tent, just the process, communication. When we called, when we had the very couple of concerns with people at the rink that, were of concern to us, just the response from Royal Oak PD. Also, the savings I should have mentioned on the rink, because of PD's, just checking on the project, we saved so much money to the city in private security, which were eliminated after year one. So just wanted to say a quick thanks to, Chief Moore, as always, for the support in these type of community projects. Royal Oak Holidays attendance was solid with more than 20,000 visitors, and that led again by the lighting of the park with 4,000 people, and that was actually verified by the DDA's Director's Placer data. So it was very exciting to see our numbers match the Placer data. There were another 11,000 people enjoying the holiday markets against cold weather, which we saw. And every vendor that participated wants to come back. So that'll get me into what's new. I mean, I was just so excited with how the markets worked, considering the temperatures. There were more than 5,000 people visiting local businesses between the Cookie Crawl Elves program and the Santa Grinch visits. On the city budget, we had pledged to the city and the DDA to raise $125,000 in outside funding, but we raised more than $225,000 in outside funding, which meant that the whole project, we promised a $345,000 project, and the city got a $478,000 project. So again, I just want to demonstrate that the additional money that we received went into the program, and that's our commitment to the city. And I think we all know that this is not new revenue for the city. We eliminated the winter blast, and that funding went into this program, which again, I was so thrilled with last year. Programming included Hungry Hippos, which was literally the most hilarious thing I have witnessed. A free skating weekend, the Hardy Lodge tent, the Christmas market, and many other activities. For 2026, our plan is to take the big draws of the Lodge tent and the Christmas market and put it on 3 weekends. So we take 2 of the smaller weekends that I think had trouble standing on their own with rides and the zip line, and putting that revenue into 3 weekends of the tent. We've heard from several commissioners on that and other feedback, and have the market going 3 weekends. So we put that together in the 3 weekends of December, which is really holiday themed, and then we rotate the free skating, the ice sculptures, each of them adding to that on an individual weekend, and then having the cookie crawl and the toy drive on the other one. So I think we are going to have the park lighting and then 3 incredible holiday weekends. So that's the changes for this year. Some of the things that we want to research is turning the park lighting into a tree lighting. We've heard some feedback from patrons and public officials on that, and so that's something we're going to look very closely at, and we're investigating the cost, the placement, the logistics of doing that in Centennial Commons. So you'll hear from that. And then the one thing that we had that is unfinished is we are going to eliminate the ELVS program and work on a second business driving program. So with the success of the cookie crawl being so strong, one of the ideas we're looking at is maybe a brownie crawl a week or 2 later. Again, which if the cookie crawl can deliver 2,400 people, maybe a brownie crawl can deliver that. We think the ELVS program served its purpose. It drew 3,000 people, but we just had some concerns, and I don't think there was the excitement or the build on that. So let's see what else I have. That is it, and I'm open for questions on the holidays, but we are really excited to do some magic. And unfortunately, to your point, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I forgot what your adjustment was. If we don't start planning and raising money in 90-degree days, then it will not be there. And I think that's one of the nice things I try and bring to all the community projects in the city, is to not only bring in corporate citizens, but activate, help them promote their brands, show their community tie-in so they come back year after year and support the city.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think the holiday programming makes our city so magical during the holidays. And I get a lot of feedback about how people feel like they're in a Hallmark movie. But that's really a team effort, right? It's not just you, but it's also to what you said about, I want to second what you said about Chief and his team, making sure that our community is safe and that makes people welcome to come downtown and celebrate the holidays with us. My children love the cookie crawl. They thought, because they've never been on a crawl, they thought that they literally had to crawl to each space. So they're going to be super excited about a brownie crawl if that comes to be. Is there any comments, questions for Mr. Witz?
Yeah, no, I think it's been great. The holiday program has been phenomenal in transforming and activating downtown. Long before I was commissioner, I was just a dad bringing my kid to the event. I remember it was on, the steps of the library in Hallman Plaza. It was, lighting up a tree as, the lights were lackluster. Then it was in the parking lot back here for a little while, and that was, it was okay, but the thousands and thousands of people that come out to the park lighting now is just, it's an amazing night. There's so much that we can do. Yeah, the backdrop of the rink, you have the market going, and the hut that we added last year, the heated hut, was just phenomenal. It's a really nice addition. The park comes alive in some of the coldest months. It's just not fun. So I'm excited that we're doing this. I move approval.
I just want to do two more thank you since you were. One, I just want to thank the mayor, who's not here tonight, because the market was his vision. We weren't able to deliver it exactly as he saw, but it is his vision, and it was proven a winning vision. And then also the DDA, their push to involve local businesses. We have guaranteed 3 market spaces at no charge to Royal Oak businesses on each weekend. So that's 9 Royal Oak businesses getting a free space. And we'll kind of judge those applicants based on what are good market goods and gifts. So just wanted to say thank you. And thank you for those nice words. No, it was just another, illegal comment from the podium. My apologies. So.
We have a motion from Commissioner Polo and a second from Commissioner Bastian. Any discussion? I almost got it by the end. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I have it. Okay, thank you so much. All right, now we are at the end. We're at item 12. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Bastian. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Chisholm. Is there a discussion?
I've been waiting so long, and I've been doing it.
Sure. Now, having done the people's work, there is no need to longer lurk upon this dais nor in the gallery. And as we're not hourly but salary, and to our homes and families we wish to return, I most humbly motion to adjourn.
Someone take a picture of the chief, please.
That was very nice. A call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And any opposed? All right. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.